Hello, I'm David Hunt. I'm a broadcaster and man about town, Melbourne town.
I'm Robert King. I'm a broadcaster and a bar owner.
Hold on, Robert King, bar owner. You were a school teacher in the last time we spoke to you, and now I'm getting a story that you're a bar owner.
Yeah.
Where was your bar, in Fitzroy or?
No, in Bali.
What sort of bar was it?
I'm sure if the viewers have ever been to Bali, and some of them, if you've been there over the last 10 years, you'd know a bar called Hulu Cafe. It was a bar that I bought with two friends from Melbourne, from a guy who was also from Melbourne. And we used to go to this bar quite often for holidays. It was a fun place. It used to have drag shows.
Right, so it was a gay bar?
Well, I wouldn't call it a gay bar. I'd call it a mixed bar.
Right.
Most of the clientele were tourists.
Yep.
There were certainly gay people there as well. We decided one day that we'd heard that this bar was for sale, and it was my idea. And I said to my friend when we were in Bali, I wonder how much Graham wants for the bar. And my friend didn't say anything. And then the next day I asked him again, and he said, "You know what, Rob? I've always wanted to own a gay bar." So we found out how much it was,
Yep.
and we got someone else involved, and we bought the bar.
That's a big step away from being a school teacher, isn't it?
Totally.
Were you quite nervous about doing something like that?
Never owned a business in my life.
Yeah.
Never owned a bar in my life. My friend was a dentist, and my other
that's
friend
like a
was
bar,
an
yeah.
IT person,
Right, okay.
and I was a teacher.
Yeah.
But my friend, the accountant, ran his own dentistry business, so he
Yep.
knew all about books and things,
Oh, okay.
which is very important
Yep.
when you're running a bar. So we jumped in and decided to run this bar.
How long did you have it for?
From 2004 up until 2009, about 6 years.
Right, okay. As you said, it was the locals would go there, but mostly tourists.
Yes.
You know, what happened there? You know, like you said, there were drag shows?
Yes. Probably the best way to describe the bar was it's a cabaret.
Okay.
People sit down at tables.
Yep.
We didn't have food, but we had drinks, of course.
Yep.
And the drag queens used to perform. They used to spend a lot of time in the audience, sitting on people's knees, amid a lot of hilarity.
Right.
Taking off shirts, men's shirts.
Yeah. It was the local people who were dressing in drag.
That's right. They're all Indonesian drag queens.
Right. But there was one that was sort of like the bit of a celebrity that was from Europe.
Yes, and he is now my dear friend. We called him Lady Susu. And I don't know if you know, in Susu in Indonesian means breasts.
Right.
Whenever he came to Bali, which was every Christmas, we used to feature him as the headline act.
Right, okay. And was he a drag performer back?
Oh, yeah.
Where's he from?
Belgium.
Belgium, right.
So he was this European diva.
Right.
And he was a great drag queen.
Right.
Fantastic. Funny drag queen.
Right, so comedian.
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
It. So the banter in between was...
But also visual gags.
Yep. You know, a lot of tourists would have come to see the drag shows, the straight tourists.
Absolutely.
Because that's what you do when you're on a holiday like that, isn't it?
I think when you're on a holiday and you want somewhere to go, we were surrounded by hotels.
Yep.
People wanted somewhere to go at night.
Yep.
They didn't want to go to bed straight away, so
yeah.
You do something different, I think, when you're overseas.
Absolutely. What time did you open of a day?
Well, when we first took it over, it used to open about 9 o'clock at night, and it only had one show.
Yep.
Finished at 12. But, you know, when we took it over, we thought, well, that's ridiculous. You know, you only get 3 hours to sell drinks. You've got the place for 24 hours, you know.
Yeah.
So we made changes. You know, we introduced 2 shows with a gap in between, so we had time to sell drinks.
Yep.
And we also opened in the afternoon. Not for drag shows,
but
just for coffees and so on.
And were you living in Bali?
I was living in Bali up till 2007, and then I had a partner over there, and because he wanted to study nursing, we came back to Melbourne. But one of my other partners was still living in Bali and running the place.
Right, okay.
And I used to go over there and help out,
right.
Usually on holidays and so on.
And what happened to the bar?
It burnt down. Now you're going to ask me why?
Yes.
Have absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
If anyone knows Asian countries and you want to ask the question, how did it burn down?
Yep.
You'll never get the answer.
Right.
We even had to pay the police so we could get insurance on the contents.
Wow.
So I have my suspicions.
Right. You think it was deliberately?
I do.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Why?
Well, it was funny because when I was informed that the bar had burned down by my business partner, he rang me in Melbourne. When you hear about fires in businesses, there's two things really you think about. One is insurance, and the other one is revenge. Well, we didn't have insurance. Revenge was a possibility because we actually had got rid of one of the drag queens at one stage.
Now, you came back to Melbourne before the bar burnt down.
My partner's story is very interesting. He came from Aceh. Now, if you remember in 2004, there was a tsunami
Of course.
that hit Aceh,
Yep.
killed 180,000 people.
Wow.
He was caught up in that. In fact, he told me about how he was on top of a building as the tsunami came into the main city of Aceh.
And it saved his life.
Bandar Aceh, yes.
Yeah. Wow.
But he lost his business.
Yep.
He ran a shop.
Yep.
And quite a few of his family were killed. So he came down to Bali.
Yep.
He was a gay man,
Yep.
gay boy
Yep.
at that stage.
When he got here to Melbourne, he decided he wanted to have a sex change.
He certainly did. Now, you have to remember too, I'll just go back a bit, because Aceh is a very, very conservative Muslim area, the most conservative area in Indonesia.
Yep.
It has Sharia law. So in other words, you're stoned for simply holding hands with a man or whatever. So he went from that. When he came to Melbourne, he decided that he wanted to dress up as a woman, which he'd done a little bit of in Bali. He and his friends used to get together and have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
But when he came to Melbourne, it was much more serious.
Yep.
And he started dressing up all the time.
So as a day-to-day basis was dressing as a woman. Yep.
And then decided he wanted to have a boob job. So I was still with him at the time, still living in the same apartment, and he wanted to have the boob job overseas. So we went to Phuket in Thailand, and there's a great international hospital there, people might know, where they do all sorts of nips and tucks and, everything. And so we had the operation, he had the operation there. I was very impressed with the hospital and the surgeon. They were terrific. And they allowed me to stay in the hospital overnight while she had this operation.
Yep.
And then she had to stay there about 10 days, but couldn't do anything for herself,
Lifting your arms.
Couldn't lift her arms.
Yep.
Or I had to dress her and everything at that stage.
Okay. But then when all that was done and you were back in Melbourne, she decided that she wanted, totally live a life as a woman, but then wasn't interested in being gay anymore. Is that right?
No, I think she would have identified as transgender. Hard to explain her realisation for this. It wasn't actually a sudden desire to become a woman.
Yeah.
She was much more practical about it. She wanted to be a prostitute, a transgender prostitute.
Okay.
Because she realised she could get quite a lot of money. Anyway, finally we split up and she went to Sydney and she now lives with a man who likes transgender people.
Okay. And not so much a gay man.
No, he's not interested in gay men.
Right.
It's a great world.
It's a wonderful world. Thanks, Robert King, for being on the show today. So much information. I'm David Hunt. Thanks for watching, people.